What's up everyone, welcome back to another video. Kind of a tricky week last week and a lot of us left unsatisfied, I think. I ended up with 30 points all out and dropped over 100,000 rank, so I am itching to hit that wildcard button next week in 24, but that might not be the most optimal plan as we get further into the complicated end of the season, with doubles and blanks coming up. As you can see on the screen, I do think that Bruno is a priority buy. He is actually still a decent option against Arsenal this week, but becomes much better the weeks following this one. If you have the money to get from Foden to him, I think that is a very good option, as I have been feeling that Foden will be benched against Wolves this week. I don't necessarily think going Saka to Bruno is the best move, but if you already have Rice, then I'd go for it. Bruno is the linchpin in the United attack and should put up even better numbers than what I have for his last 8 game weeks as he moves up into the 10 position in Carrick's new system. As you can see below, Bruno does get 1.1 XGI per 90, so if he does play a full match, you can expect a goal involvement from him every single game on average. That is incredible numbers and cannot be ignored, not to mention the fact that he should still pick up DEFCON occasionally. The fixtures look incredible as well for Manchester United after this week against Arsenal, so definitely trying to get him in next week, if not this week, is a good idea. That being said, obviously, if you don't have Gabriel already, get him in first. I think that he is the most essential player for all FPL teams this season and cannot be dropped and should be held by all teams this season. Moving on to Manchester City, do we need to be getting rid of all of our Manchester City assets? I have a feeling a lot of you have at least 3, especially with Guehi and Semenyo making transfers to Man City. If you do, I would personally hold Haaland, Guehi, and Semenyo, but I might be looking to move on from Foden and Cherki. That being said, Cherki is tough, and I'm tempted to say that you should hold him. He is still the only real creative force that we've seen at City week in and week out. As you can see below, Foden's XGI stats don't actually look too bad, and a lot of his form can actually be attributed to Haaland's wastefulness in front of net. But I don't think that you can hold him after this week. I definitely think you can play him against Wolves, but after this week, I think that unless Haaland really kind of pulls himself together, I would be selling Foden, as a lot of his output does depend on the big Norwegian. Kind of looking back into the Man City defense, Pep has recently said that Guehi should start against Wolves, so Nico O'Reilly should be an okay start for that game. If you have him, I think that he might actually even play in the midfield if Rodri is still feeling a bit lethargic after the Champions League match in midweek. I think that Guehi should help shore up the defense, so I think that there is a possibility for O'Reilly to actually grab some clean sheet points as well as some offensive output if he gets into the thick of things up front. That being said, I don't think that he is a great asset moving forward with the return of Ryan Aït-Nouri, who did start at right back, but I know that Pep will try to get him back into his favorite position at left back. Semenyo should continue to start in the Premier League given that he's ineligible for the Champions League group stage, and Pep will try to rest Cherki, Foden, and Doku, at least one of them at least this week. His XGI numbers are still solid, and fingers crossed he kind of takes the initiative and tries to make things happen in the coming weeks for Man City. Moving into the fixtures, I think that we can start to focus our transfers or even our wildcards onto specific teams over the coming weeks. Starting with Chelsea, we should be looking to bring in a defender like Cucurella or Chalobah, as well as Enzo or even Caicedo. The starting lineup for Chelsea does still look to be unpredictable under Liam Rosenier, but keep an open mind after the weekend's games are played, and maybe you will want to bring in someone like Enzo or Caicedo, but I think that Cole Palmer and the rest of the wingers are a bit risky, as well as João Pedro, even because of Liam Delap kind of right behind him and them splitting time so far. Bournemouth are top of the fixture ticker after they play Liverpool this week, so someone like Senesi should be back on the menu. I'd also look for Krupi to make that offense his own in the absence of Tavernier, Semenyo, and Kluivert, and he does look to be playing right behind Evan Nelson. I also did see that he may potentially be on penalties, so keep an eye on that. For 4.6 million, a man on penalties in a very prolific offense actually could be one of the better buys of the season, so definitely keep an eye out for Krupi this weekend. Moving forward into Everton, they aren't technically in the top 4 or 5 of the fixture ticker, but I think at home and with the return of Njai from AFCON, Kieran Dewsbury Hall from injury, I think that they should be coming more into the FPL picture, despite the recent injury to Grealish, who looks to be out for 2 to 3 months. Pickford, Tarkowski, Njai, KDH, and Garner actually, who had 29 DEFCON last week. Those all should be decent options moving forward for the upcoming stretch. As you can see, they play Leeds, Brighton, Fulham, Bournemouth, and Manchester United. So a lot of kind of middle of the table teams who I think that Everton do tend to play well against. Brighton also look good, so if you want to take a chance picking who you think will start in their lineup, you can go for it. I personally just think it is a bit of a toss-up with Herzler at coach. He's a little too unpredictable for my taste. Palace also have fantastic fixtures coming up, but I've not included them here since the club seems to be in genuine turmoil, with Glasner recently saying that he feels abandoned by the owners, who sold the team captain and are looking to offload their top scorer in Mateta. So I would steer clear of Crystal Palace assets until you kind of are convinced that they have wrapped things up, and maybe even wait until after the transfer window is closed. And finally, you may have seen me hinting at this, but do not ignore Arsenal for obvious reasons. I think that by 24, you should have 3 Arsenal players barring any injuries to guys like Rice, Gabriel, Saka, Timber, and even Raya. They are 5th on the fixture ticker, so even Saka is not a bad hold right now if you can afford him, but obviously do prioritize guys like Bruno if you have someone like Rice to kind of cover the Arsenal offense. Moving into chips, as I've said before, a wildcard is a good option next week. Really, you would have a decently similar team this week if you wanted to pull the trigger a week early. Triple Arsenal and double Chelsea probably will be the mainstays and the best options for the wildcard. There's a huge swing in fixture difficulty coming up, so getting on that train should help you gain rank. Trying to target the good fixtures, but remember to kind of keep an eye on form as well. Despite having good fixtures, if somebody is out of form, I would definitely avoid. That pretty much means that we're looking at all the City assets since their next run of games isn't too bad, but if they remain out of form, I would not be buying or even holding, so potentially offloading some of those City guys. Triple captain will most likely be saved for a double game week unless you're really feeling a good outcome in a single one, like an in-form Haaland against Burnley or something like that. I think that a double game week is the best use of the chip, however, and so I would probably prioritize that and waiting for game week 31 or 34 when those doubles should be coming. For the free hit, again, I would save it for a blank game week or a double game week, which again looks like they will come in game week 31 and 34. So I'd be waiting on those moving forward and keep an eye on those for the next weeks. And finally, for the bench boost, save your bench boost for when your whole team is healthy and you have at least 2 benching decisions to kind of make. Maybe you're not sure who to start one way or the other. For me personally, you can't really go too wrong with the bench boost, but you can obviously get it right and gain 20 to 30 points if you play it strategically. I think that the bench boost is kind of a subtle second best chip in the game behind the wild card, so if you do play it right, it can really boost your rank. My most likely choice for using the bench boost will be in a double game week as well, so that will be down the line. So that does it for today's video. I do apologize for the late release on a Friday. I've mostly been reading Dungeon Crawler Carl in my free time after work, so I haven't properly made time to kind of make a video and record and edit this. I'm also trying to switch formats from Canva to PowerPoint, so let me know if you like this one better than my old setup. It was definitely an interesting change. I don't know if I really liked the workflow as much as I liked the workflow in Canva, but if you have any experience working in either, let me know which one you prefer. But yeah, anyways, this is how I'm going to be set up for Game Week 23. I did transfer out Phil Foden for Kevin Schade, who I will be captaining against Nottingham Forest at home. I think that Kevin Schade just has really good numbers, and he kind of hasn't really capitalized necessarily on them besides that obvious hat trick a couple weeks ago. So I think that I should risk it this week. I believe that Kevin Schade is a great player. He did well last season, and he continues to play well this season. So yeah, I'm going to choose him over Haaland. It's a bit risky, but I think it's worth it at this point in the season. So yeah, with that being said, good luck to you all for the rest of this week, and I'll see you again next time.